Joanne told that story about Anderson and their team coming together and being 4 skips, and I totally wanted to tell my story, but I just didn't when Shannon was on the double down. And I was like, how's it going with 4 skips together? And she's like, well, we're number 1 in the world.
Yeah.
It would have played well there, but I was like, we had plenty of good material. That's such a good story. She's like, oh, bless your heart. You big dumb animal. We're the number 1 team in the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Curling Nation Season 3, Episode 7. Is it 7? It's 7. That's how you throw? Today we're talking with Joanne Courtney, sweeper extraordinaire, triathlete, Olympian.
All the things.
World champ?
Yep,
world champ. Talked to her about commentary, sweeping,
triathlons,
more sweeping,
charity spiels,
charity spiels, Scotties, all kinds of
interview
fun
is
stuff.
Pretty good. Don't turn us off yet.
Yeah. Also, thanks to Motus Financial for their support of our lovely podcast. If you need a point of sale credit card system, payments for your curling club and or business, motuscc.com. Mason will get you set up. He does good work. Also, we have cards for sale if you want. They're end cards. If you haven't played ends, it's super fun. You can drink with your friends and take money from them. Email the show. We can get you some cards. You can support the show.
Curlingnation at curlingnetwork.com.
Correct. Joel.
Mike.
Craig.
Fantastic. All right.
Let's get into it.
Let's talk to Joanne.
All right. We got a great guest this week. She's a world champ. She's a Scotties champ. Canadian mixed doubles champ. Man, she's got a whole mess of other medals. She's retired, but she's technically still probably the best sweeper in the world. She's the newest TSN talent. She's a triathlete, a social media superstar, and she's the salt of the earth because she's the nurse. Welcome to the show, Joanne Courtney. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Great to be here.
You bet. How are things? I think you just said in our pre-thing you're flying out shortly to go to the Scotties.
Yes, I just got a very exciting gig with TSN. I'm going to be one of their analysts for the Scotties this year, so I fly out tomorrow. And I can't wait to just watch curling and talk about it and get to present it to Canada and just, see all these amazing women out there just competing their butts off.
For sure.
Where is the Scotties this year?
It's in Kamloops, BC. Look at some nice mountain views in the mix.
Got it. And are you replacing Cheryl Bernard? Is she done now? Is that how that went down?
Yeah, so in the summer, she announced that she was stepping away after 8 years with the team. And so they've asked me to come and join for the Scotties. So I am really thrilled with the opportunity, and hopefully it leads to more. But at this point, it's just the one event.
Okay, great.
Awesome. You did some Olympics coverage, right?
Yeah, I snuck in for that, which was just a phenomenal experience. It was something I wasn't expecting. And to be able to watch the game from a less invested perspective, it was just great to see. There's so many amazing things happening out there. But when I was competing, you just get so caught up in your own performance and your own team that it's hard to kind of zoom that lens out. So getting to watch the men, the women, and the mixed doubles was really, really fun.
That's awesome. And you did that from Canada, right? So it was all kind of weird hours of the day.
Yeah, we did all 3 draws a day, and it was overnight. So we were in these little cubicles in the CBC building in Toronto, and you just watched the TV, and it was actually quite easy to forget you were on air, which was great for me because I had zero experience. I was so nervous that my hands didn't stop sweating for the first 2/3 of the whole thing.
Oh man!
I actually even had a little sweat towel, and Mike Harris is like, "You are a crazy person. What is happening here?" But it's actually nice to not be surrounded by the action, just so I could get my feet under me. And yeah, it's going to be nerve-wracking heading over to Kamloops, but I think it's going to be a lot more fun to actually be in the venue, to be awake during daytime hours, and then just to get to see the action live in person.
For sure.
So you'll be there doing in-game stuff or post-game, or during game
Yeah,
stuff, right?
I'll be in the booth doing the analysis. Yeah.
Got it.
So you'll be in the booth with Vic and Russ? Is that who?
Yeah, we're still working out the details. I think I'll spend some time with them. They might put me in the morning with Brian Mudryk. It's still a little bit up in the air, and,
Sure.
and I'm happy to go with the flow. I told them, like, I'd be happy being the janitor for TSN. Like, I just so badly wanted to get in and be a
Nice.
part of this side of curling, because it's nice to be able to stay involved. You know, I don't want to compete at this point in my life, but it's nice to still be around it. So I'm thrilled wherever they want to put me.
So you don't want to announce you're unretiring on the show? Like we don't have. Oh, come on. That'd be so great.
Have you?
We might tease that anyways.
Yeah. Have you turned down offers to sub in games here and there?
I had a few kind of fifth opportunities. I did actually spare for Team Caitlin Laws when Caitlin went off in the fall. So I played in kind of a local Alberta event, which was really fun. Like, it was great to be on the ice and compete and see everyone. But the lead up, like trying to get myself ready to play, was like pulling teeth. It was really hard for me to get to the rink and practice. So that kind of showed me that we're still in the break phase of my career, if not the retired phase.
Love it. Was it you switched to being a triathlete in the off season? Did you go back to curling, or like I forgot I had those muscles, or were you still pretty? I mean, you're pretty fit to begin with, but
Yeah, it was a hard transition because triathlon is all endurance. So I got really good at doing things for a long time at low intensity. Like I did a half Ironman. It took me a little bit less than 5.5 hours. So like that's a long time to be exercising, but you're not at your full expenditure of energy. So yeah, when I went back into trying to get ready to sweep, I was like, I kicked my butt.
yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't quite understand about curling, is that it is a physical endeavor. Like, even if you're not a front end player, like I started wearing a Garmin with a heart rate monitor, and you're burning a lot of calories out there. So your Tuesday night beer league, like, you're earning those beers.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
And
That's why I like to play front end on Monday beer night with Craig. So yeah.
I always tell those juniors, like, front enders get cheeseburgers. It's just how
Yeah, I
Love that.
I swept mixed doubles for the first time this season a few weeks ago, and I thought I was gonna die. Like, I didn't realize how bad a shape I'm actually in, because I've been skipping for way too long, and I got that last 6 feet of the house to sweep, and
Pretty good at that.
I can kill that.
Yeah.
But a full rock up and down the sheet, it almost killed me.
I got it. I feel that. I've been sweeping a lot this year. It's not for me. So it was up until about age 17.
17. Yeah. Then you decided the house is where it's
I
at.
decided that wasn't my specialty.
Nice.
So
I still can't believe I used to sweep a full national championship with a 10-inch angled brownie brush.
Yeah.
Like moving a tank up and down the ice, like.
Joanne's not
Figure
old
it
enough
out.
to remember those things, though.
No, I had a brownie when I was in juniors, but it was like the teeny
Teeny
like
one?
4
Yeah.
inch. Yeah. And
Yeah.
when I made it onto my first like competitive women's team, I was still using my brownie, and they'd just come out with like the fiberglass super light stuff. And actually one of the parents on the team was like, you need to use this instead of that. So me at 15 was like, oh, well, I can do a lot better with this thing.
That's much better.
Like washing my brownie in the sink.
Yeah. I know that move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Not dry for time.
Where are you from originally, and like who did you play with when you were like in juniors?
So I'm born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta. It's a city out west in Canada. And I played in the local Little Rock program because my brother is 2 years older than me, and I copied everything he did. So got in there. And then there was a parent, then there were a couple kids that were the same age, and said, hey, let's put these kids in bonspiels. And funny enough, I was actually skipping. And I think in the 2 years I played on that team, we tied one game and we won one game. So like clearly born to go to the Olympics there. So around age 12, my parents were like, you know what? maybe we play indoor soccer for a bit and, you know, not drive around the whole city all the live long day.
Maybe curling's not for you.
Yeah, and like I was saying, my team was like sitting on the benches, like trying to figure out what snacks we're gonna eat after, and it just wasn't going great. So I took a few years where I just played recreationally, and then I got a call from Kaylin Park, who was my skip for 4 years in juniors, and we went to a junior national. We lost the provincial final a couple times together. So all of a sudden you kind of get in the mix. And as you guys know with curling, at least in Canada, like we don't have a governing body that creates these teams. There's no tryouts. It's not what you know, sometimes it's who you know. So once I kind of got in the mix with her, you start getting to know the other players and you look for teams and you jump around a bit in juniors. At least I did. I mean, teenager. So sometimes you got to find the right personalities and to fit in properly with everyone else. And then, yeah, from there, after having a decent junior career, didn't do a ton there though. Like we made it to one junior national, lost a bunch of provincial finals. But by then I kind of had enough of a reputation in Alberta that I got a couple calls in women's and kind of went from there.
Right on.
Had you always been focused on sweeping? Because in your later career, I guess, as you call it, you're one of the best ones out there. Had you always been focused on that, or knew that was where you focused your efforts?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, not the best skip at 11 and 12. So at that point, I was like, I'll even play lead on a team. I just want to be on a good team. And that call that I got from Kaylin put me in at lead. And that was right around when like Randy Furby's team was really big, and Huff and Puff were the sweepers, and everyone was all like going crazy about their sweeping and how strong they were. And I was just a little curling nerd, and I watched a ton, and I actually followed their team very closely. I was a super fan. And I was watching them and I was thinking, I can do that. So like at 15 and, you know, 90 pounds, I'm out there like pretending as if I'm on national television. But that was a big deal for me because I took a lot of ownership of trying to be the best one out there. And that's what got me noticed. And it's actually what got me noticed for Team Holman. Because when they had an opening on their team, they wanted to add to the sweeping side of the game. And actually, when I took my first slide for Rachel, when I joined the team, I was on the team, we were about to start getting ready for the year, and I took my first slide for her, and she went, "Oh, that's how you throw."
You're damn right.
Yes, it is. We played each other a few times in my career, but glad to know you were paying attention when you gave me the phone call. So we made some tweaks, and we worked on the curling side of things and the throwing and made it look better for her. But yeah, it was what I could do sweeping that kind of got me noticed and set apart from people. So a bit of teenage delusion, but then also just I loved seeing that physical side. And I was like kind of a recreational gymnast as a kid, so I had some upper body strength. Like you had to do 50 push-ups before you went home, before you got to go to Tim Hortons to get your donuts.
Nice.
So there was a bit of natural ability there, and I kind of just built off that.
Very nice. Well, it speaks to like Rachel's confidence if she can bring somebody who she is like just disgusted by their delivery and release. Like, well, I'm good enough that, you know, I'm going to make everything if I've got a good sweeper. I don't care if she makes a shot this year.
Yeah, she's just a lead. It's fine.
Well, and in fairness, that the athleticism that comes with sweeping is very hard to teach. If you could teach people how to do it, everyone would look like a Ben Hebert or a Breck Gallant. Like it's a difficult thing to manage, getting your body weight over your broom and traveling down the ice. So the curling slide is something that we work on all the time, that you kind of tweak throughout your life. So it does speak to confidence in saying, okay, you can learn how to throw double the rotation on your out turn. We can figure that out.
Fair.
It does take longer to make that sweeping progression.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit more about sweeping then. So, like, what do you think the most, I don't know, important or underutilized attribute to a good sweeper is that you like see teams not doing, or you see the good sweepers that they are actually doing it?
I think with like a lot of the testing and the research over the last few years, it seems to be that like where your broom is in relation to the running surface of the ice is extremely important in what we're trying to do with direction, right? So there's times where like if you're trying to drag it for distance, you want that broom head like parallel with the running surface and just covering as much as you can. But that directional piece now, we see teams that have turned the broom head like perpendicular to the rock, and they call it knifing, I think, trying to get the rock to carve. So that's a tough skill. Like if you try that, it feels really awkward, and it's tough to get a lot of pressure on. So you see a lot of people kind of banking everything in their heels, trying to get this angle. And I think that that's something that we're still working towards and seeing what that proper angle looks like. Something that bugs me is the one sweeper sometimes. Like I get what we're trying to do with direction, and that first person that's closest to the rock does about 80% of the work, but there's sometimes you're watching and we're sweeping a draw for an extra point or for a win, and there's one person sweeping. And like in my mind as the second sweeper, I know you're trying not to burn off your energy and stuff like that, but I mean, if it's a matter of inches, just like get in there. And even as that inside sweeper, if you have someone in your periphery going with you, sometimes it's easier to get more energy involved there. So that bugs me sometimes. That's a bit of a pet peeve. I know that not all the time it's necessary, but sometimes it's like, geez, maybe one more sweeper would have helped that get by the guard. I don't know.
Right.
And then beyond that, I mean, we could talk forever about sweeping and the stuff that I kind of see, but I really like the teams that do the tag team switch at the hog line. Like if they only have that one person sweeping, and then as the rock really starts to slow down and that first sweeper is burnt out, there's some teams that they do it really well where that outside person kind of swings in, they're fresh, and they can drag that rock even further. And someone that comes to mind is Caitlin Laws. Like when she played for Jennifer Jones, like she'd be the third in the house and the sweepers would sweep it the whole way, and they'd yell for her and she'd like sprint out, and that switch really fast would happen, and then she would just like empty the tank for the last 10 seconds. So that's fun to watch for me because it's exciting, right? As a fan, you can tell there's some drama there, and then there's that athleticism piece too.
I like that.
I agree with that. I think that that's a good technique that I think is not utilized very much. Especially if you're just doing one sweeper most of the sheet, like just when you get down there, just switch him or her, because that obviously, that the one person could keep going, but if they have been going hard for the first 70 feet, let the other, just have the other person take over and do it the last, 20 feet. It's the same amount of time, even if it's half the distance or a third of the distance. But
back in the day when I used to sweep, that last part from the hog line end seemed like the longest part.
We've all been there when you're like sweeping and your triceps are just cashed and you're just like, I can't go anymore.
Or you're still moving your broom to save face, but it's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
absolutely nothing.
I feel like my strongest contribution to the sweeping game is being the hype man.
Being the hype man?
Yeah, the hype man.
Yeah.
Just really pumping up. The sweeper is doing all the work. That's where I excel.
I agree. I've been working on that. That's definitely your strong suit. I feel like I'm coming into my own in that category as well.
The hype man?
Yes,
Yeah.
I play recreation, like potluck dinner league with my wife and my aunt and my 11-year-old. And I have been relegated to lead on this team. Never mind the national championships, the trip to the Olympics, etc. I'm playing lead.
You were fifth, Craig, at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Come on.
I was fifth at the Olympics,
fine.
but still, I got to go. But I have to play lead on Friday night, and my son definitely prefers the left side sweeping.
Your son playing second?
Yes.
He's playing. Sometimes he plays third, sometimes he plays second.
Okay.
But I love when it's curling toward him and he's sweeping, and I'm just standing there watching him, and I'm like hyping him up. I'm like, come on, Martin, you got this, bud. You can hold this. Come on. And like the first couple times, he just looked at me when I was done. He's like, what the hell are you doing, Dad? Why don't you help me?
Pick up your broom, buddy. Come on.
That's right. That's right.
I don't have a WCF head on my broom, so like I'd have sent that rock like straight into the guard if I would have helped him. But
Nice.
anyways,
Love it.
I like the hype
Yeah,
role.
I think it's an underrated position. I think we could talk forever about sweeping.
I want to ask her another question about sweeping.
Okay,
though,
quick.
before we go.
Do
What do you think of this? So as we watched the Alberta provincials a bit.
Oh yeah, great question.
And Don was you did a little commentary with Don Bartlett, and then I saw some other games with Don, and he loves using he just loves talking. That's Don. We all love Don. But he's like, and look at him just knife that one in. So, that you had mentioned that term before. So what's your opinion on that technique? Like, do you think that is...
So I think, first of all, we should probably explain what the knifing...
Yeah, she kind of did.
That would be turning the broom head so it's going the long way down the sheet.
And you're sweeping on the outside of the path to make it curl.
So
right?
How do you feel that affects the stone compared to just keeping the broom head in the same orientation and sweeping in that spot?
Yeah, so that's something that we saw really for the first time at the Olympics. And it appears to be the most effective at making the rock move. So I think what we see is when that broom head is turned so it's the skinny way in front of the rock, it creates a difference in the temperature of the ice, and you see that the rock will kind of catch the fresher stuff that's not in the warmed up spot that the skinny broom is making. What it seemed to do, before, I haven't played a ton this year, but what it seems to do is it makes it curl the most, but it actually also makes the rock slow down more than you would expect it to. So if a rock is traveling down the sheet and you're saying, okay, this looks like it's top 4, you start to knife it, as the boys say.
We'll call it.
Trying to get that thing to curl and get under the guard, but because it's moving more sideways than expected, more into some fresher stuff, you might see it come up short. So as the sweeper, you need to be that much smarter. This thing's got a curl, but if it's a little bit light, you're better off keeping your broom the traditional way, where it's the wide way in front of the rock, and trying to make it curl as the outside sweeper, curl away from you and kind of show it where to go, but to continue the life of it as well. So you hear them yell sometimes, they go, curl, distance, because they don't want them to move the broom head.
They don't want to go full curl. They just want to go, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you gotta be heads up as the sweeper, and that's why it does help having kind of one person sweeping, the other person hyping, or also judging, because, if it's a board weight tap or a lightweight thing, and all of a sudden that knifing takes 6 feet off of it, well, that's going to maybe change the makeup of the end.
Is it that much?
It depends on kind of where you are on the sheet too, and it depends on the ice surface. And if you do get that rock to get out of the spot that's been really cleaned up, it can make a big difference.
Sure.
I've seen people lose games over the curl versus the straight.
Sure.
Right, and that's hard. As the line caller, because you call it too early, you can really wreck the shot, and that doesn't sit well. I had to call line when I spared in November, which I've never done ever in my entire life, and I missed some line calls, and man, that sucks.
Yeah. It's not always the sweeper's fault.
Usually
it is. So that's 100% true.
No.
All right. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk some Scotties with you, since we have you on. What are I mean, we can get into predictions if you want, but what are the storylines that you have any intriguing storylines going into this? I mean, there are tons of them, but do you have any that are more intriguing?
I mean, top of mind, obviously, is Carrie Anerson's Team Canada squad looking for 4 in a row. That's just unbelievable. And I think I was one of the people when they first formed. I mean, there was a team of 4 skips, of 4 people that I hadn't done a lot of any other position in their career. So, outside looking in, I thought, oof, I wonder how this is going to work. And it has worked, just beautifully. So they're probably the most comfortable team there, but then it's just a matter of they're going to have a target on their back the entire week, and can they show up with the right stuff? My previous team, Team Ontario, Team Holman, they're going to be compelling to watch as well. They've got so much talent. They've had such a great year, but the interesting part for them is they haven't played a ton. I think them and Anderson played the least of kind of the top seeds going in. And for that team, every single person is displaced from their previous position, right? Tracy's playing third for the first time in her life. Rachel is a sweep for the first time in her life. Emma's at second. Sarah's at lead. So them not having a ton of events this year is going to be interesting to watch what happens under pressure, because they haven't had a lot of repetitions when the fire is really cooking in those big games. So I predict that they'll do really well. I'm just curious to see how they manage it, going into the biggest event that they've played in as a foursome.
If it doesn't
And
go
then
well to
outside of that,
start,
I mean, there's like, huh?
like if it doesn't go well to start, how they manage that.
Yeah, or even let's throw them in the championship round, when every single win really matters. Like,
Right.
let's see what happens there. Like, that'll be very interesting to see how all that unfolds. Like, I don't understand how Rachel's doing it. Like, imagine being a skip your entire life and knowing like, hey, I got this much time after I miss, I got, or whatever, and now all of a sudden you finish your last shot and now you got to go sweep 4 rocks. Like,
Yeah. I know what
that's
that's
why
like.
I got on the team. That was my job.
I know, like I almost puked when I did that. It was bad. Like,
Yeah, but it's just lead rock, so you don't have to swing
Right.
very hard.
What about?
Just kidding.
that's right.
Just kidding.
What about? I've got a couple written down. What about like Team Kelly out of New Brunswick? They have played a ton this year and had a lot of success. Like I mean,
Yeah.
the provinces out east traditionally don't fare all that well, but they have played a ton this year.
Yeah, and they had an outstanding Scotties last year. Like Andrea was on absolute fire, right? So the thing with the maritime teams is you see them a lot at the Scotties, and as you said, you don't often see them faring all that well. Like they can upset for sure, but maybe you don't see them later in the week. But for Andrea and her team, they made it to the playoffs, which was huge. Like loved so much from that experience. But beyond that, like it's these teams that are frequently at the Scotties. They're very, very good. Like I said, always with the ability to upset. It's just going to take them longer to be at a point where they're ready to compete late in the week, right? Because every time you're in that moment of like, pressure's on, we're in the playoffs, we're the only sheet out, like you have to live through those moments and struggle through them and learn from them before you can kind of make that next leap. Like McCarville's another good example of that.
Right.
They're always kind of in the 3-4 game and then, into the semis, but maybe not in the finals. But it just takes them more years to get enough of that experience under pressure to be able to thrive. So a team like Andrea Kelly, who made it that far last year, like all of a sudden now your brain isn't going to be freaking out next time you're in the playoffs. It'll be a lot easier to compete under that kind of pressure. So teams like Suzanne Burt, Andrea Kelly, Krista McCarville, Carrie Galusha too. I mean, she's been there 18 times now. Like these people that pressure won't be getting to them as much as it might have in the past because they just had so many years under their belt doing it.
Got it. That's great. What about Clancy Grandy? She played really well to start the year, and she's going to be the hometown team. Like, is she really going to feel the pressure, or how is that going to? How do you see that playing out?
I think that's going to be a fun team to watch. I had a chat with her last week, and she's got an interesting perspective. Like, she hasn't done a lot of skipping, but she played a ton of mixed doubles, so she's not unfamiliar with the pressure of having that lost rock in her hand. But she also worked with the Netherlands in a coaching role for the last number of years. So having had that experience as coach, she said, has actually helped her with like her leadership role and coming into skip, just looking at curling from a different perspective. So when we were chatting, like she's got a great head on her shoulders. She's got a team where everyone is like all in on curling. They've played 11 events this year. They're super invested. They're almost like 3 out of 4 of them live in BC. She moved to BC for this team, and their fourth, Lindsay Dubuque, is moving to BC at the end of the season. So extremely, extremely committed. And they've had a breakout year. Like they're top 5 on the CTRS, and I think that they're going to be a good team too. And it'll just be interesting for them because they haven't had that exposure to the Scotties environment. So
Sure.
It can be maybe easy through the round robin. You just pretend it's a regular bonspiel, but hey, your first time on TSN is hard. My first time on TSN, I fell in my slide into the belly flop. It was awful. I'm still trying. So, like,
Sorry, we shouldn't
it
laugh.
probably won't be worse than that.
No, wait a minute. We're gonna explore. You fell
we
down.
have to unpack that. Yeah.
You fell down.
I didn't fall down. I did a belly flop. Like falling to me, when I think of falling, Craig, is like, oh, you tripped when you were sweeping. Like I was lining up to throw like a peel, and my feet never left the hack with me.
oh,
Like it could not have been worse.
Wow.
And it wasn't even the end of the game. Like I still had an hour to be out there for.
That's
Dang.
amazing. We need to look.
Let's see if
Do you think that we can still find like YouTube footage of this?
I would rather not know the answer to that question.
What?
I'm so traumatized.
Can you tell us what event it was in?
No.
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 I'll leave that up to you. on the internet.
Damn it.
I'm sure someone can find it, but
If you have the answer to that trivia question, please email the show.
Send the show.
so
Little gif.
All right, sorry. We can go back to that. You can finish your
Yeah.
statement. I'm sorry I had to interrupt, but it was fun to hear about you falling down. I mean, belly flopping.
Yeah.
So
do you have a catchphrase that you want to use on the air yet or no?
I don't have a catchphrase, but a word you will never hear me use on air is deuce. That bothers me so much.
Love it.
that's good.
Like,
I
they're
like that.
looking for the deuce. They really want that deuce. Like, I can't. It gets a skips 2. It's a score of 2. It's a pair, a couple of points. You won't hear me use the word deuce.
I'm gonna listen very intently now. See if you just get so caught up in it that you just let one slip.
How about the term buttonhole? You want to get that one? Or?
I think Kevin likes that one. Do you,
I liked how she was so quick with like facts there in that.
She was very
I mean,
quick.
like they played 11 events this year. They had
Yeah.
a great, she just knew that.
She's definitely done her
she's
homework.
ready. You're ready.
That's how I battle like crippling nerves. Is I do a lot of prep.
got it. Well, if
I
this
am ready for
show,
a blank end, you guys. I'm so ready for a blank end. Like, I will talk. You will tune in for blank ends. The stuff I have, the fun facts.
story time with Joanne, blank ends, story time with Joanne. This is gonna be great. Looking
I'll
forward
tell
to
Russ
it.
and take a bathroom break. I got this,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, no problem.
I got this, Russ. See you after the break.
There was a bit of a controversy in curling Canada. Maybe you don't want to touch this, or maybe you will. When you think about the pregnancy rule that they rolled out, it was
Yeah,
I
that
think
was.
for
that
those
was tough.
hold on, for those tuning in that
Yeah.
don't know, they granted exemption to the top 5 teams. I think that they there's a exemption that if one of the players gets pregnant, they can bring in an additional out of province player. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it
Okay.
was a residency exemption in the event of pregnancy.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a bit of an interesting and tumultuous week. And I think for me, like outside looking in, I felt the most for the players because no one wants that in the lead up to a major event. And then particularly for the team that it involved, which was Team Wildcard 2, that was Caitlin Lawes' team. What I will say is I like that we are looking at trying to keep the sport, like keep Canada moving towards being the best in the world and staying competitive. And if a team feels that they can't reach within their province to replace a player, there were options there for Team Laws. Obviously, the big issue was limiting it to the top 5 teams, which Curling Canada did retract. So that was good to see.
Oh, they did?
Too.
Yeah, okay.
There was
They
a
did that.
willingness to say, okay, let's look at this again, instead of doubling down and saying rules are rules and we're Curling Canada and this is what we're going to say. So I like to see that there was the opportunity for dialogue. Also like to see that we're still trying to stay dynamic and adjust things as we go to try to make sure that we stay competitive as a country. It was tough how that all rolled out. The timing, there was a lack of transparency that people complained about, and I hope it's a learning opportunity for everyone involved, and that moving forward as these things kind of come up, hopefully it gets handled a little bit. Hopefully it gets handled a little bit better.
So it was good they got rid of the top 5, but I read the statement and I didn't really understand why they went with the top 5. Do you know why they just limited to the top 5?
In the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was talk about funding and, not, I'd have to look in the articles, I think, and for the quotes from Catherine Henderson, but there was stuff about like the top 5 are typically the funded teams, so it should apply to them. But I think the argument there, and what's so great about our Scotties is the amount of competitive teams in the whole country. And there was not a lot of difference between number 5 and number 7 this year. Like number 6 is only 6 points back from number 5 in Canada. So the other side of the coin there too is like our Scotties. Yeah, we've got almost everyone in the top 10 is there competing because of these wildcard teams. But as we mentioned, these maritime teams, these frequent flyers at the Scotties from smaller or from regions, provincials that produce often the same team that maybe doesn't play as much. Like Team McCarville, I think, was ranked 61st going into this Scotties, and they were the runners-up last year.
Right.
And they're not a team you can just expect to win out of by any means. Like,
Right.
they would be strong playoff contenders, right? And they're like 15th seed of the Scotties, which isn't true when you're actually looking at the talent on that team.
Yeah, they just always don't. I mean, they just don't play a lot. I think they practice a lot, obviously, and then they just come in and win games, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So is the Scotties ranked? Are the pools ranked based on CTRS points, or?
I believe that's how the seeding works. Yeah.
Okay. So a team like McCarville kind of messes with that every year because they're always in the top half of the field, if not, the top third or quarter of the field. But they're always going to be ranked in the bottom third or quarter points wise because they don't travel as much.
Yeah, and you'll see that with the other teams too that maybe don't play in the Grand Slam events or like you said, don't travel. But at the end of the day, at your national championship, you're going to have to expect to be able to beat everyone. So a pool, certainly with a 15th seed of McCarville, is going to be a tough pool.
Sure.
Yeah.
Huh.
Do you have any dark horses? Anybody going to surprise?
You know, I would love to see from Quebec, I'd love to see Laurie St. George go on a run. Mostly it's selfish because I think she's like insanely entertaining. And I love seeing her out there and just competing. We played her in the bubble back in Calgary. And that was the first time I'd ever played against her. And we were we on TV? I don't know, but we were like, they were highlighting the bejesus out of our game because it was such a tight game. And she was playing lights out. She's making everything. But what I couldn't believe with her was she just was like unapologetically herself out there. Just like up and down and with all her shots and just wildly entertaining. She loves the game so much and like it's infectious. And people like her are great for our sport because you tune in and you want to cheer for her and you want to see her do well. So it'd be neat to see them kind of go on a run. But they're a young team and they're definitely in deep against this field.
Like it.
Do you have any early predictions now that the Briarfield's set on any of that nonsense?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to choose like a Gushu, right? Because their team is pretty well intact. They have the one new player, but they're pretty consistent when it comes to Briars lately. And haven't seen them quite as much in the finals, though, as you would have expected. So stay tuned there. They would probably be kind of at the top of mind going into it. But then, like, the men's field is so strong. Like, you've got your Dunstones, your Botchers, your Cooeys. There's any of those teams that kind of show up for the marathon. It'll be interesting to watch for sure.
Did you have a chance to watch much the last couple weeks of all the coverage around the country, both men's and women's, or have you kind of been, I don't know, just doing your research offline and not watching it live?
Oh, it's been good. I've been able to tune in quite a bit. Like, all those streams have been so much fun to be able to keep track of everyone. And, you know, even to get to know these teams a bit better. Like, Kayla Skrillex team out of Alberta, they had just an outstanding final. Did you guys see that shot she made to win?
Yes.
Like,
that is
historic.
Dynamite.
Right?
Whoa.
I did not
Historic.
See that.
That was that thin double that they took on. And then the controversial broom toss.
Ah,
Oh, right.
throw those damn brooms.
Throw 'em.
Celebrate.
Let it go.
I disagree wholeheartedly that that's even controversial. Like, you show me one player.
I know the old people don't like it. I don't care.
What's the greatest broom toss of all time, in your opinion?
That?
No,
You think that one?
wrong.
Yeah.
Pat Simmons.
I think
You know
Pat
what,
Simmons.
actually- Oh, yeah, Pat's was awesome. But there's also, like, when Team Cooey won the 2018 trials, like, we were there because we'd also won.
Well played.
We were there. Yeah. I hadn't had any beers or anything after we won, but we were ringside waiting to go out there with them for the photo op and everything. And they finished sweeping it like end to end. This is the sweeper's dream, right? Because you pillar to post that thing, like, you made that shot.
Yeah.
And Ben like tomahawked his broom. Like, it went from the away end all the way to the home end and just like slid quietly into the boards. So like, I don't know, did it miss Cooey by much? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
That
Yeah,
was a good one.
Benny's was pretty good. I still like Ben Simmons because it's like cover the lid.
Pat Simmons.
Or Pat Simmons. Sorry, Ben Simmons is a terrible basketball player for the Nets. There's some iconic ones.
That's a good one. All right.
I think as long as you don't hurt anybody.
Awesome. Yeah, as long as you don't hurt anybody.
As long as you're not javeling it towards somebody or throwing it into the crowd.
Whatever, man. Chuck it right in the crowd.
I saw Craig throw a broom at Jason Smith one time at a charity spiel. It was hilarious.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that.
Well.
Yeah, it was a charity spiel. It's fine.
It's
Did you watch any of the U.S. Nationals?
I didn't get a chance to watch them. I was in my last week of work, and then with a little bit of commentary at the men's provincials, I didn't get a chance. Don Bartlett was like knee deep in it. He was giving me all the updates.
Oh man,
Sounded like it was a good event, guys. Hey.
I think so. I was there pushing buttons, working cameras. So I tracked around 2,700 rocks that week.
Whoa, look at you.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That was a lot.
I can't count that high.
But yeah, I think for the most part, the stream went pretty well. One hiccup the first day, but we got that fixed. There was a hardware problem, but we got that fixed and it went well, I think.
Awesome.
The curling was good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no surprising with your winners, but
it wasn't. That was certainly not guaranteed halfway through. Like, Schuster got help to get into the 1-2 game.
Yep.
True.
It would have been interesting if both Schuster and Dropkin would have missed the 1-2 game.
Yes.
Just the little bit of a change
that very well could have happened.
Change in dynamic and pressure, because John's so used to being in the 1-2 game, and he thrives once he's in the playoffs, but he's also always had the 1-2 advantage, I guess. And it, just if things weren't going, they weren't going as smoothly as he would have liked at points during the week, and maybe that would have changed something, but then again, maybe not, because at the end of the week they were pretty much perfect. So
Agreed.
That's so interesting with that format, right? Because that 1-2, like that little safety net. Someone was telling me about the Scotties. I think the amount of teams that have won from that 3-4 game, like hardly anyone has won, because you play a sudden death 3-4, a sudden death semi, and then the final, I don't know, you're out of gas or something. But that 1-2 game is huge, as you say.
Yeah. Well, and you gotta, it's 3 can't lose games. It's 1 extra game to get all the way there. It's just.
Plus, for that team in that kind of event, they expect to be in the 1-2. And if they're not in the 1-2, then that means something isn't clicking quite right. Where, if you take a field like the Scotties or the Briar, you can have the best team on paper going in and not make the 1-2, and it's not like this big shocker. Because there's enough other good teams.
Agreed.
So you could still have a good week and be in the 3-4. And you don't have maybe a negative mindset going in, as opposed to John, who 100% expected to be in the 1-2. But I don't know. Anyways.
All right. Well, we know you've got a bag to pack, but we've got some questions, so we ask all our guests before we kick them off the show. So we'll get into those. I think you touched on this a little bit, but if you want to add any additional, you go ahead. How did you start curling? It's not like junior program, kind of.
Yeah, I was like, I'm one of 4 kids, so mom and dad were looking for an activity that was once a week, preferably one that we could put a couple kids in, and so they put my brother in first, and then I was only 2 years younger, so I got in a few years after him, and it was great. Got sour cream onion chips after every Little Rock outing, and
boom.
I had some fun, and I thought front end was really boring at the time. I remember singing songs on the ice to myself while I waited for my next rocks, but lots of fun memories in the curling club.
That's like the kids on my hockey team.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what you'd consider your home club anymore. If you have a home club, great. But what would be your favorite place to play other than your home club?
And what is your home club?
Yeah, I guess what would you consider your home club?
Yeah, my home club, probably from about 15 or 16 was the Saville Community Sports Center. It's the one of the national training centers in Canada.
Okay.
So big facility, 10 sheets, great ice makers, they'll run the rocks for you and everything. And so really nice spot to practice. But outside of that, I did love going to the club I learned how to curl in, which was the Crestwood Curling Club. I actually lived across the street from there for a number of years. And even just you walk in there and it's like, oh, what was so good about curling when I was little. So
nice.
And of course the sour cream and onion chips.
So
yeah,
they're there.
perfect.
Yeah. What's your favorite spiel?
Wait a minute. She didn't answer the last question. What's the favorite club besides any that used to be your home club?
So would you consider Saville?
outside of that.
Would you consider
yeah.
Would you consider Saville and Crestwood home clubs?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
guess so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So do you have a favorite club outside of there?
Yeah, I like the Ottawa Curling Club, but that was also kind of a home club for Team Holman, right?
Oh.
Ottawa Curling Club is.
You are making these
100-year-old
questions
building.
way more difficult than they need to be, Joanne.
Just say Portage La Prairie. Or...
Burn.
Moving on.
All right, next question.
All right,
Sorry.
favorite spiel?
Favorite spiel would be, there was a TSN skins game they used to run in Banff. We only went a few times because it conflicted with our provincials after that, but you showed up, you played maximum 2 games, you're in the mountains. It's wonderful.
Plus, didn't they give you kind of a sweet little gift bag, swag box, whatever?
You got swag, if you happen to win your semifinal, you're playing for a bunch of money. It was wonderful. And the crowd was like on the ice with you. It was a 4-sheet curling club. They turned it into a 1-sheeter, and like the stands were right there. It was so much fun.
That's awesome. All right. Setting money and championships aside, what is the best or weirdest thing that you have ever won?
So turning the clock back to my one and only charity bonspiel appearance, there's a Sudbury, I think it was called Heart to Heart or House of Hearts. I was 18, so it was a very long time ago.
I think it was Heart to Heart.
That would be a heart to heart.
Heart to Heart. Yeah, so it was in Sudbury about 15 years ago, and I won the Miss Congeniality Award. I believe I stayed up all night on the first night. And yeah, I don't think I left the dance floor very often. I might have had to play a curling game or two, but I was quite proud.
That's great.
That is it's a pretty sweet award. Yeah. Do you have a skill or talent outside of curling that we should know about?
That's hard. I'm not very talented. But I will say, I'm a very fast walker. Try to keep up.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did that pay off, in your whole triathlon career? Just the ability to walk very fast in case you got tired in the run, you could...
No, she doesn't mess around when it comes to triathlon. I can't even touch her half iron time.
Rule number 1 of triathlon, when you're running, you do not walk. Because the second you walk, you're dead. That's what I'm told. I don't know. I've ran 2 races. I did 2 races in my life. But when I was doing the half Ironman, it's a half marathon to end your day. And it was over 30 degrees, humidity. Montreal was awful. And it was the most boring course. We're just running around this reservoir 4 times. And all I could remember was, okay, if I start drinking Coke, I can't stop drinking Coke because apparently it's the caffeine and the sugar and you'll die if you stop drinking it. But also if I start walking, I'm done. So then you just slow down to the grossest shuffle. And
I've done a number of triathlons. Yeah, I've done a number of triathlons. And when you start walking, you just... you can start running again, but it's just every time you walk, it's just longer and longer and longer before you start running again. So it's the worst. Just, never start walking if you can avoid it.
All right, I learned something new.
Boom.
I did see the footage of her finishing. It must have been, I don't know if this was the half, though, where you just all out,
tried to track that. There's a guy in front of you, tried to track him down, or the two of you were probably ran 3/4 of the half marathon together.
Just no, that was a sprint triathlon.
That was the sprint.
Half Ironman was a gross finish. But the sprint, I don't know what happened to me. I was chasing these guys down for about 1 kilometer, and I didn't think they knew I was there. And then we were turning the corner, and then they started sprinting. I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense.
No, you got to always save it for the end. You always got to look good going into the finish line. That's what I always did.
I was wearing a Garmin, and it called my emergency contact because of my heart rate.
Wow. That's
fantastic.
All right.
It's been
So
a
what?
cardiac event.
Yeah.
All right. So what helped you along the way to become a better curler?
I think the big difference for me was we had a coach on a junior curling team, I don't know, 16 or 17 years old. And we kind of parted ways with the coach, but the coach had worked with Marcel Rock in his day and actually played with him. And he was a guy that he reached out afterwards and said, look, there's something there. There's something special. And he was willing to work with me. So things changed for me when I started throwing rocks outside of my team practice and getting those repetitions in with him. He'd come out and hold the broom for me for an hour a couple times a week. And that was huge in just developing the basic skills of sliding straight and releasing the rock properly. Not the way Rachel wanted me to, but I mean,
Yeah. Sure.
What does she know?
Not the Ontario way,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So what advice would you give to curlers looking to improve? We have it as improve their game, but maybe because they're such an accomplished sweeper, what advice would you give to club players looking to improve their sweeping?
For sweeping, like number one is your broom needs to be in front of the rock. That's like on a club basis, that's sometimes what looks like the hardest thing is keeping up with the rock, making sure that your broom is actually where you want that rock to go, especially if you're using a non-WCF approved broom, because you can do the wrong thing if you're sweeping in the wrong spot.
Ooh.
Beyond that, it's really about trying to get your upper body over top of your broom head. So thinking a bit less about where your feet are and trying to just feel yourself supporting yourself on your broom. And if you can do that and really start focusing on pushing down as hard as you can, you'll notice that you'll have more of an effect on the rock moving it down the sheet. So whenever I work with curlers like juniors or whoever, the first step in getting good at getting more pressure on your broom is actually feeling your chest go over the center of gravity, over that top of that broom head. Because people often think, well, I need to get my feet farther away and that way I'll get more pressure on my broom. But actually you need your upper body to be in the right spot before you can even think about your feet.
Great answer.
And actually on that note, sorry, there's a lot of curlers that are great sweepers whose feet aren't actually that far away from the rock. Like the tall, like it seems like tall sweepers are extremely effective just based on body composition. Like I've played against sweepers that their feet may not be perfect, they may not be on their toes, but they're extremely effective because they have the right body positioning.
Got it.
That's why you're not a very good sweeper, Craig.
I am an amazing sweeper for my size and body composition. The fact that I was limited in both of those aspects by my parents is not my own fault. My technique is flawless for a little guy.
All right.
All right, I'm going to stop for just a second on that topic. Who's the best sweeper out there, men's and women's, right now?
Hard not to choose like the hammy-lammy combination for Team Scotland.
Oh,
yeah, they're pretty good.
They seem to be very effective and very intense out there. And then on the women's side, I mean, like I'm going to sound really biased, but whatever. It's just a podcast, right?
Yep.
Sure, nobody's going to listen.
I love Emma and Sarah on Team Holman. Like they're both very tall. They both put a lot of work in. They've got really steep broom angles, which is key when you're trying to put that downward pressure on the broom. But somebody else in my Scotties prep, and I've been watching some old game tape and trying to get a good feel for all the teams out there, is Emily Zacharias. There's a picture of her online in her sweeping form.
I've seen this picture. It's bananas.
Yeah, like that as a sweeper, that's the dream. Like your dream is that a photographer gets one of those, because often they get oh, you just started sweeping at the close hog line, or the rock has come to rest and your feet are flat. But like you work your whole career for a picture like that.
Yeah, just like on her tippy toes and is like basically horizontal to the ice. It's unreal. Yeah. What about the ladies from Sweden? They're pretty good.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you could name, honestly, I named a couple of times.
Okay, I digress. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, all right. 2 fun questions, and then we'll let you go because we know you got to pack. You're going to a bonspiel. Yeah. You can go to any bonspiel, and you can take whoever you want to take with you. Curlers, non-curlers, alive, dead.
I mean, dead doesn't matter.
You can take up to 4 additional people so that you have someone if someone gets overserved.
4.
Yeah. Who do you want to take to a bonspiel? And sub question, where are you going?
Oh, we're also going somewhere.
You gotta go.
You gotta go
spiel.
somewhere. Like you gotta go to a fun spiel, or yeah.
Or it can be a competitive spiel.
Okay, I want to play in Perth in Scotland. They have a spiel, and that was always on my list.
Okay, I like it.
Never got to go, which is too bad. At Skip, I would like to have Mike Harris, because then when he misses, I could tell him it was an easy shot and I can't believe he missed. And just be so blunt with him. It would be so much fun.
I played in the charity spiel last summer with Mike Harris, and it was great.
Well, that's perfect. So we have fun. He's actually, all jokes aside, he was a fantastic teammate to me when I was in the booth with CBC and sweating my hands with my sweat towel and everything.
Got it.
So
Perfect.
love Mike.
All
He's
right,
great.
so Mike Harris.
Okay, Mike's in there. At third, who are we putting in there? I would like to put... Sorry, you guys even sent me these questions in advance.
It's okay. It's a tough one.
It's a tough
A lot of people struggle with this one.
It is a tough one. Who do we want in at third? I'd want to put Amy Nixon at third.
Oh,
I think that she would be a good mix for Mike in the house. I think that would be a very dynamic duo to watch. And I always played, like, she was, obviously in women's when I was in juniors in Alberta, but she was like played with Shannon Clybrand. Like she was right up there when I was back in the day. And then we got to move into the front end. Do you guys want current players or past players?
Whatever you want. You could take
This is your dream team.
You could take whoever you want. I mean,
after being in the
famous
booth
people, like you could take The Rock if you really want to. I mean,
well, okay, then we will take The Rock. That'd be great. You can break a broom. Like, there's some of these football players that are taking up curling in the States right now, and I'm a bit concerned. Like, are our brooms sound enough for this? Is our sport ready for this? Because I'm not sure.
The sustainability of carbon fiber and 6 whatever Jared Allen is, and it's a big dude.
I would like to do some safety testing before we really get these guys into our game. They're more than welcome, but that's a little scary. Okay, so The Rock is going to play second, and then I'd probably put Donnie B at lead, because Don, like, after sitting in the booth with him for a couple games, like, his eyes are outstanding. He can tell, like, when he's playing, he knows exactly where that rock is going on the sheet, but when he's watching on TV, once he sees it cross on the screen, when he sees it cross that far hog line, he knows exactly where it's going on TV.
That's unreal. Unreal.
Crazy.
So you're just going along to be a 5th on this team. Nice. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
You might have to fill in for The Rock. I don't know that The Rock is going to be able to handle a whole weekend of curling.
I like it. There you go. Yeah. Perfect. All right, last one. If curling had walk-up songs, you're familiar with, I'm assuming, the baseball parlance of a walk-up song. What would your walk-up song be?
I would probably go with, what am I listening to right now? Sorry.
That's okay.
This is details.
I love a good walk-up song answer.
I love a good Canadian apology for no real reason.
I'm always so sorry, guys. I actually, Dance Monkey would probably be my song by the Tones and I. I always got made fun of by my trainer in, like, my curling days, because, like, you go and you lift pretty heavy at the gym, and he'd ask me for requests, and I'd choose, like, Happy or, Can't Stop the Feeling, like, because he just thought my pop-up songs were a little too, they weren't angry enough for him. But
nice.
Go get a PR.
I love it. All right. Well, Joanne, thank you so much for coming on. It has been a blast. We would love to have you again sometime if we can. Best of luck at the Scotties.
You're going to be great.
Yeah, we know you're going to be great. If you want to, I don't know, maybe after the show we can find some code where you can shout us out on the broadcast.
Oh yeah.
Just a little subtle, something.
I'm sure I wouldn't get in any trouble for that, but
we'll do it.
You don't have to say Curling Nation.
No,
we'll
do it in the morning, like the morning
just...
draw. Like you just got to say like fluffer nuts or some weird thing, and then we'll know you were talking to us.
The one time you say deuce in the week that you're on the show, we know that's just an homage to us or something.
I love it. Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, very good.
Thanks, Court.
All right, that's it, everybody. Season 3, Episode 7. Big thanks to Joanne for coming on. Great interview. I had a lot of fun with that. I think we all did. Thanks to Motus Financial for being our sponsor. If you want to get in touch with the show, do that. Curling Nation at curlingnetwork.com. Check us out on the Face Tubes, on the Twitters. We're all out there. Otherwise, if you want some ends cards, get them. They're pretty dope. I think that's it, right? I don't know. Short, sweet. Boom.
I like it.
All right. Myself, Mike McDermott, Joel Dietz, Craig Brown.
Craig.
Joel.
Out.